these diaries they are poor in spiritual contents, because it's more like an agenda saying, today I went to the market, or today I met Consuelo. And so she will usually gives names, not surnames. And I remember today I went with Jairo to the park. So we had to, it was like a puzzle. And we had to decipher who these names were, and the places she mentions, what are they. So these elderly people I have been interviewing were very useful, because, for instance, I asked one of them, Maria Teresa says that she goes to the park with Jairo. Who was Jairo? And my friend says, Jairo was the dog. We always thought it was a friend, or no, it was a dog. So and I remember there was another later in time, in 1920s, during religious persecution. There's a name that appears often, Sanchez. Sanchez is one of the most common surnames in Mexico. And I was I remember in a cocktail, and with this elderly woman, and we were chatting. I knew who she was. We were not friends, and I only knew her by sight. But it occurred to me because she's Sanchez in her maiden name. So I asked her, by chance, was your father Chilean? She said yes. And it turned out that he was a diplomat living in Mexico at the time of religious persecution. And he became very good friend of María del Refugio, so he would visit her quite often. So we started identifying all these people, and of course we had more and more people to interview, and a few would have a letter or a book that had been given by María del Refugio or whatever. So these diaries, yes, they were very, very useful. And it gives us the everyday life of Maria Teresa, who was a lay person at that time. The everyday relationship between daughter and mother, and everyday life of the incipiating religious community. So that was very, very useful. And there's another name that appears in these diaries, and also in the first in the register of one of the schools, and it's the name Aedo. And the tribunal asked me, well, they told me, look, see if you can find this person, because she seems to be very important. So I said, all right, Aedo was her maiden name, but if she married, who did she marry? And the only thing we knew was that she was a boarder in the school in 1919, in a branch school in a suburb of Mexico City. And so I thought, well, if she was a boarder there, perhaps the family lived there. So I thought I'll go to that parish and ask if I can see the papers, baptismal records, and just if by chance she was baptized in that parish, and if she married, if they registered the name of the husband in the margins of the baptismal record. So I went there, and that day the parish office was not opening, so I was kind of frustrated and annoyed. So, and it was a very warm day, so I decided what to do. I went to a small shop and bought a refreshment, and I was in the pavement drinking my refreshment, my soda, and there was this old lady sweeping, and I asked her, do you by chance know a family named Aedo? And she said, who? Josefina? And Josefina was the one we were looking for. So I said, yes. Oh, she lives here. She's my landlady. So I went, I rang the bell, and she was so scared, because someone in this must have been probably 1986, and someone asking about her going to school in 1919. So she wouldn't open the door, and so well, I left the place, but at least I got to know that she was alive, that she lived there. So I had a Polish girl working with me, and I just told her, look, go and interview this person, and she did, and the old lady Josefina opened the door to this post, and so she was interviewed. When we saw the interview, the tribunal said, we are going to call her to testify. So I got in touch with her, and I told her that they wanted to interview her for the official testimony, and she wouldn't accept. She said, no, but my sister is willing. And I thought, well, yes, but the tribunal is interested in Josefina, not the sister. So I said, all right, worse is nothing. So we made the appointment, and as they were both very ill, they couldn't go to the chancery, well, or the see of the tribunal. So the priest said, the tribunal said, no problem, we'll go on and interview her at home. So we made the appointment. The interview was going to be on a Thursday morning, and on Wednesday 4 o'clock, I phoned just to remind them that the tribunal would be going next day, the following day. And Josefina answered, and she said, look, my sister died an hour ago. But tell the priest to come, and I'll give my testimony. So in the end, we got the testimony we needed. And the session was held in the living room with a coffin in the middle. So and then so many of these coincidences, and then well, apart from the oral history program, of course, I continued visiting archives, and the idea was to see the highest number of possible archives And no matter if we weren't sure of a connection with María del Refugio. So, and we had very nice findings because I remember 2 religious communities I visited, and yes, there was a friendship between foundresses, and these were communities that were near the school, Blessed Sacrament School. So that's why they knew each other. So also, well, I had to work in the National Archives, so I was acquainted with the sources there, and we did find things. And then there was another archive. The secretary of President Porfirio Diaz, someone had said that he had been friends with María del Refugio. So I thought, well, it would be worthwhile going to his personal archive and see if there's anything regarding María del Refugio. And this archive of Rafael Chausal is located in the National University. The problem was that it was being organized, so it couldn't be looked into by researchers. But I knew the person who was organizing it, so she said, no problem.
Yeah.
You can look through the papers, and there we found 115 letters of María del Refugio and relatives. There we got to know the background of her husband and the family of her husband. It was very, very useful. We got to know that her husband had, in a previous marriage, he had children from that previous marriage. And we were able to identify names in Maria Teresa's diary, because we knew now that, for instance, there was Elisa Cancino. And when Maria Teresa mentions the name Elisa, what I did, one of these entries is when Elisa dies. So I went to the registry, birth registry, and death, and I asked for a copy of the register, and it was the same date. So now we knew that when Maria Teresa speaks of Elisa, it's Elisa Cancino, her half-sister, and who had another sister, Amparo. So as sometimes Teresa says, I went to visit Elisa and Amparo. Now we know that those two are her half-sisters. So there was this archive that was close to the public, but we were able to go through. Another case was I went to Tulancingo because María del Refugio was very good friends with the Bishop of Tulancingo. And the chancellor told me, look, we have no archives. They were burnt by my predecessor. And she showed me a bunch of burnt papers, and he said, this is the only thing that was saved. So I thought, well, nothing we can do about it. And this bishop was moved from Tulancingo to Monterrey. So I went to Monterrey, and I was given permission to to go through the papers of Archbishop Herrera y Piña. And to my surprise, he had done something that is forbidden by canon law, but for us it was really
Good job.
providential, because when he was moved to Monterrey, he took all the papers of his administration as Bishop of Tulancingo to Monterrey. So it was really an unexpected and very important finding. And I spent three months in Monterrey going through the papers, and wonderful things. Correspondence between María del Refugio, María Teresa, and other members of both school and community with Bishop Herrera y Piña. And also the there was supposedly an apparition of the Sacred Heart in 1920 in the school, in the host. And lots of documents regarding this fact. So very well documented case, and several other things, and friends they had in common, and some benefactors of the community who were friends of Bishop Herrera y Piña, and so on. So we had quite a number of findings that were very, very interesting. And also, well, it helped a lot that I had organized before the earthquake, the archive of the office of the Vicar of Religious in the Archdiocese, because once the chancery reopened in its original building, I was able to photocopy the whole file of the Mercedarian sisters. So that was very useful. So we were actually getting quite a number of papers in different archives. We searched 240 archives in Mexico and also in other places. And in 114, we were able to find materials. Abroad, the most important finding was, and we didn't need to go, it was done by through correspondence. We wrote to the Bishop of Oklahoma, where the sisters opened the first school in the United States, the first house in the United States. So the bishop answered, and very willingly and very generous, sending us a bunch of photocopies having to do with the Mercedarian sisters in the Diocese of Oklahoma, with several letters of María del Refugio dealing the foundation of the sisters, and so it was a very valuable contribution. Also abroad, another important finding was in Rome, Congregation for Religious. There, I looked at the file, and there was nothing concerning the time of María del Refugio. So it was very disappointing. And the archivist was, he was Mexican. And it happened that very same day, I looked in the archives, I was invited to dinner in a religious house, and it happened to be the same community congregation where he belongs. So it happens that we were seated in the refectory next to each other. Yeah. So when he realized I knew the community and I was friends with the superior, local superior, and that I had been a novice with them, he told me, look, come to my office tomorrow. I have something to show you. So I went, and he took me to the cellars, where, I mean, if you go to St. Peter's and you are in St. Peter's Square, on well, the previous square, which is called Pio XII, and at the sides you have these well, different offices of the Holy See, and he took me to the cellars, which are immense. They have the parking for the officials and employees of the Vatican, and they have archives, which are not the secret archives of the Vatican. These are archives that are still in the congregations. So he said, look, everything prior to 1918 Code of Canon Law was moved to the cellars. So we have he showed, I don't know, kilometers of shelves with bundles of documents, and he said they are all placed, I wouldn't say organized, but placed by years. So okay. You are looking 1913. We just have to go and look at 1913. So I think they had 1,000 bundles for 1913. Wow. So we spent a few days. He helped me, and they were also divided: male communities, female communities. Mm-hmm. We looked at the female communities, and there was nothing. And he said, let's try the male community. And I said, no, there's no point. I mean, it's not a male community. And he said, no, let's have a look. The first bundle and the first document was the file on what are nowadays Maserian sisters, at that time apostleship of the Blessed Sacrament. So that was really also a very, very important finding, because we had the original constitutions, the petition for the founding, and a few letters and things. And it was, again, I don't say casual, it was providence. Right. And amen. Things like this happened all the time. So, yes, well, of course, when I started working, they said 3 months. After 3 months, after all the findings, I said, I can't just say that there's nothing when I'm finding so many things. So I was forced morally to keep on working. Mm-hmm. And so we and the same thing with the tribunal. They couldn't say no, we're going to stop it. That they had no more arguments to stop the course. Right. So that's how the course got to continue.